Hi, this is Steph again, the ancient medic. Um, and I thought I'm still trying to find all my stories, and I just found a dish towel today that I haven't seen for like a year or more, and I folded like 32 dish towels, so because there was like none in my drawers, a couple, but I thought maybe I should go up and put some laundry away, taking advantage of the heat, staying inside and getting stuff done here, but um yeah, I haven't seen this dish towel. It's like a decorative one. I have it hanging over a little shelf in my kitchen, and I, I had okay, it was nowhere, and all of a sudden there it was mixed in with my laundry. So I don't know, because I mean I have put laundry away since last year. To be clear, I mean I don't know, but anyway, I thought I would tell you, maybe you can get an idea of what it's actually like to be a medic, or an EMT. But especially as a medic, like when you're the one in charge on a call. And this was my very first trauma as a pretty brand new medic. I don't remember how long I'd been certified, but I don't even think I'd been a paramedic for like a year. Now, I had pretty many years in EMS as an EMT prior to this, but when you find yourself a medic and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, if I'm the only medic on a call, like I am ultimately the one responsible for this patient because you're the most highly trained, or certified person. And, sometimes you're like, I don't want to do this, just somebody else take over. But so this my very first trauma, and this was a major trauma. And I'm the like only medic. I had a first aider with me, and I'm not even sure how that happened because, to the best of my knowledge, there was supposed to be a minimum of an EMT driver with a paramedic. But for some reason, it was me, a first aider, and my boss was there. And I don't remember. It was a long time ago. This is like 92 ish. Yeah, I think yeah. I was certified February 92. So this was, I don't know, maybe I don't know, 6 months. I don't know. I don't remember. I know it was less than a year I'd been certified, but I don't recall my boss having like even an EMT cert. Maybe he did. I thought he was just like the manager of the office, or whatever. But so it was kind of weird. I don't know why it was just me, a first aider, and my boss, first people on scene. And it came in as like an accident or whatever it was dispatched as. So we get there, and there was a path along the river, and there were two kids. One was on a dirt bike, and one was on one of those four-wheeler ATV things, and they were playing chicken. And this wasn't like a super wide. I mean, it was wide enough. I think they could have gotten past each other. And obviously I wasn't there when it happened, so I don't know exactly what happened. But excuse me. When we got out of the truck, I grabbed my basic monitor, the jump kit, and the oxygen. And there was a little kid there who was like somewhere in between maybe 8 and 10 years old. And he's like, "There's two kids down by the river and they're hurt real bad." And blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Well, where are they?" And he's like, "I'll show you." And pow! He takes off like a jaguar. I mean, he's 10. I was like 30 something, 32. And I mean, I was in good shape, thank God. I mean, if I was like some of these medics I see today are like 500 pounds, they probably would have coded halfway to the scene. And I don't know how far we ran, but we were going at a full speed. And I'm not a fast runner, but I was that day. And I had I think I was carrying the jump kit and the monitor. And I think the first aider that was with me had the oxygen. And we were just galloping. And I don't know, it was it's hard to tell. I don't know. I mean, it seems now like it was like 5 miles we ran, but it was maybe somewhere between a half a mile to a mile. I don't really know. I just know that's the fastest I ever ran. And so we got there, and it was a dirt bike, and then the ATV, and then in between there was like some rocks. And the kid that was on No, I'm sorry, it was the other way around. The ATV. I got to the ATV first, and then the dirt bike was coming this way. And I don't know what these kids were thinking, but um, I guess neither one swerved, and they hit these rocks and ultimately each other. And um, the kid on the dirt bike had a helmet and the full leather, leather jacket, the leather pants, the plastic boots. I mean, he was decked out, the whole thing. The kid on the ATV four wheeler, uh, it, unfortunately, didn't have a helmet. And I'm not saying helmets always, are going to save you. And I'm not a proponent of forcing people. Now, these were kids. One was 15. The kid on the ATV was 15. The other one was 16 on the dirt bike. But even so, I believe in freedom and personal responsibility, and teens anyway. They're going to do what they want. But unfortunately, when they hit the kid on the four wheeler, went off backwards, and when he landed, hit the back of his head on big rock. And when I got within a few feet of him, I could hear the other kid yelling on the other side with the dirt bike. So and there were three cops standing there, and I could hear him yelling. And I just yelled over to the cops, "How's he doing over there?" They said, "He's hanging in there." I said, "All right." So I threw everything on the ground, um, slapped oxygen on the kid, got the monitor on him real quick, um, got a set of vitals, slammed an IV in his arm, and then I did what was called panic taping, which is there's real thick medical tape. It's like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inches wide. It's real thick stuff, and I tore off a square of that. And normally we were supposed to take tape and tape our IVs a certain way, and I was like, screw it, I don't have time for that. And I wrote the vitals on the tape first, tore it off, and then I put that over the IV site, and that way when the next person came in, they had a baseline set of vitals. I put the time on. So then I asked one of the three cops to come over, and because it was me and a first aid. Well, let me back up. We got there. I threw everything on the equipment on the ground. I handed the radio to this first aider, and I wasn't looking at him because I was looking at the kid, and I was, doing stuff. And I start barking orders. I'm like, call county, get me another medic unit down here. Tell them we have two class one patients. Class one meaning, most urgent. We had 5 classes. Class one would be like a really bad trauma, cardiac arrest, or someone about to code, that sort of thing. Class two would be like difficulty breathing, that sort of like urgent but stable. Class three would be like a broken ankle, or something relatively minor that doesn't require medic, doesn't require licensed sirens. Class four would be a psychiatric patient, and class five is your people that you can't do anything for when you get there. So anyway, I'm yelling, tell them we have two class one patients. Tell them I need another medic unit down here. I need another bag mask. I need 2 backboards. Put the chopper in the air. Blah blah blah. And I looked over at him because I didn't hear anything, and he's just like, you know, he's. I said, okay, let's take a deep breath. I said, let's just calm down. I said, please call and get the chopper in the air and get me another medic unit down here. Tell them, two class one patients. Blah blah blah. So I'm guessing he took care of that because I just hopped over to the next kid, and um, he was awake, and trying to think how to put this nicely on YouTube. Well, he was concerned about an area. Guys have these things that I wouldn't know because I've never had any, honest. But when they get slammed, it's apparently really god awful, and so he's yelling, "My, what rhymes with galls?" Um, and I'm thinking, okay, he had fractured his pelvis, and in doing so, he completely dislodged his entire right leg from the socket. Your femur is a ball and socket. The end of your femur has a ball on it, and it goes into a rounded socket in the pelvis. And when he broke his pelvis, the entire leg came out and turned completely around. So his one foot was pointing upward, the left leg. His left foot was pointing the correct direction. His right foot was pointing the opposite direction. And of course, after the call's all over and done with, and we're back at the station, someone cracks a stupid EMS dark humor joke and said, "Oh, if that kid had been able to get up and run, I wonder which direction he would have gone." But that's, I think for some people, that's a way of relieving some tension after a call. But anyway, at the time, I wasn't, laughing about stuff, but so same thing. I mean, I had extra IVs and stuff, but I only had one oxygen canister, and the cops, were just there on foot. They didn't have anything with them because some of them carry O2 in the back of their cars. So I didn't have a monitor put on them. The only thing I had was my drug box, my IVs and stuff. But the kid was awake, thankfully, and I'm starting to think like we got to get this kid on a backboard, and we got to get him in a Stokes basket, which is like it's a basket. It comes around all four sides, and you put them in, and you get four people or whatever, and get a grab a corner if you have to hike them out. If anyone's ever watched the old show Emergency, which is where I grew up watching that show, and I was like, oh, I got to do this. This is so cool. But you'll see a Stokes basket. It's just a literal basket you put people in. So, I'm trying to think like, what am I going to do with this foot? Because I couldn't just, there really was no way to splint it because, with his foot pointing downward, I didn't want to put pressure on anything. And I'm thinking like, I need something under this guy's leg. And at some point in time, another medic unit did arrive, one of my coworkers. And at some point, I yelled over, and I didn't think because this was the middle of summer, but I said, "Hey, do you have anything over there, like a bath blanket or something, some towels, anything I could put under this kid's leg?" And he blasted back at me. He goes, "Use a tree limb." So, I'm like, okay. And I don't know what I was doing at the moment, but I just happened to notice that one of my cops had disappeared, and I glanced off, and I see him down like some ways away, a couple 100 feet away, and he's yanking on this tree limb that had to be about this big around. And I got up, I yelled, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm getting you a tree limb." I said, "I can't use that, and you're not gonna be able to break it with your hands." I said, "God, get back over here, I need your help." So, so um when the second medic arrived, so did the troops. There was like 10,000 people over, not that, pretty many people came. And of course, they're all over there helping him. And I mean, I don't mean this to sound cold, but the reality of the situation, when I looked at the first kid, he had we call it raccoon eyes, raccoon's eyes. It's they get bruising under here, and he was unconscious. And when I took a look at him, and I didn't think he was going to make it, and unfortunately he didn't. But the kid I had on the other side, um, I was pretty sure he would be okay. His vitals were stable. And the thing with joints, like in your joints, any joint, shoulders, elbow, wrist, whatever, it's very vascular, and you've got your tendons and ligaments in there, and you always have an artery because, like, if you take a pulse, it's right here, or you can take a pulse in here, and there's a brachial up in the middle of your upper arm. So, wherever you have a pulse point, you have an artery, and so you don't want to mess with fractures that are in a joint. And particularly when we're talking the femoral artery, because, like I said, his vital signs were pretty good. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but everything was fine on the monitor. His heart was fine. Um, but I was not going to mess with that leg. So, like I said, the other medic has all these people over there helping him, and the only thing he was doing was trying to intubate put a breathing tube down the guy's throat because I'd already put the monitor on, the oxygen. He already had an IV in him. I mean, there wasn't really much else to do except like put him on a backboard and then truck him up and get him into the chopper. And I'm thinking, all right, well, they can take two patients in the chopper, and they're going to be waiting on this other patient, and nobody's coming over to help me. So I'm still there all by myself. And I looked over, and all these extra people, and a lot of them were just standing around. And I thought, why don't they think to come over and ask me if I need a hand, which I did, because I can't put someone on a backboard. I mean, yeah, I had a couple cops there, but I really would, I preferred to have people that were trained in how to put someone on a backboard, particularly with, a pelvis fracture and completely dislocated leg and all that. So I stood up. I very rarely ever raised my voice on a call, but I stood up because someone had come over and said, you're holding up the chopper. They're waiting on your patient. And I said, well, if I could get some help over here, I could get my patient on a backboard and get him packaged, and we'd be on our way to the chopper. So still nobody came over. So I stood up and I said, I need help over here, and I need it right now. And all these heads turned, and they were like, oh my God, Steph's yelling. And that's all I said. And one guy meandered over, and he goes, oh, this is the one that's going to the local hospital. I said, no. I said, do you see his leg? I said, no, they're not equipped at the local hospital to handle this. He has to go to the trauma center because he's going right in the OR. And I said, I'm the one here treating these kids, and you're going to wander over here and tell me where my patient's going. And with that, he grabs the kid's leg and he starts to twist. And I said, no, stop. What do you know? Like a bad word came out of my mouth. I said, what the are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm going to, reduce the fracture, which is, the proper term for trying to straighten. If you don't have a circulation, you want to do what's called a reduction, try to restore the blood flow. But I said, no, you guys. I said, look, his femoral artery is intact. You go twisting and turning, and there's any bone ends in there or whatever, because I don't know what his pelvis looks like. I don't know what anything looks like. I just know his leg is out of the pelvis. I said, you lacerate his femoral artery, we're going to have some major issues. So, um, somehow or another, I got a few extra hands. So we got him on the backboard and put the cervical collar on him. And then when you do the head last, you put the body on, and the last thing to be strapped down, and you always have someone holding the head, just holding it so it doesn't, wobble around. So we put had the collar on. There's two blocks that go. I mean, there's all different types of ways you can strap a head into a backboard, but this was an orange like foamy thing. There was a flat piece that went on the backboard, and then there were two blocks of foam covered like in this orange plastic that then went on either side of the head. And then you had a strap that went across the forehead and a strap that came up around the cervical collar. So I get the one on for the cervical collar, and I reach for the one that goes across the forehead. There's no strap. I said, oh my. I'm thinking, can anything else go wrong in this call? I can't get any help over here. They're yelling at me that I'm holding up the chopper when I can't get any help, and there's 5,000 people over there just standing around like, you know. So I said, does anybody have a roll of tape? Because I guess I was out of tape in my med box. And I hear this, yeah, here. And I turn, who am I staring at? The guy who had just dumped me. And I thought, oh God, it's like, yeah, this call can get worse. I'm like, thank you. I taped his head up, get him in the backboard, and I'm sorry, get him in the Stokes. And finally, we're on as far as the leg, I finally got the bright idea. I figured I'll let the people in the helicopter worry about it. I took the oxygen. We had a carrying bag for it. So I took the bag with the oxygen canister and I put that under his leg. And that way his foot was able to hang down over the end. because I just honestly didn't know how to splint that up. But I knew I had to keep, I had to do the least amount of movement with that leg, and I couldn't twist it or turn it, or I didn't know really. No, I didn't have anything else. So that worked. Put the oxygen canister under him, and so we're walking out, and I had the IV wide open, which means it was just running. The fluid was continuously running. There's a little wheel on the IV where you can set, you know, KVO or TKO, keep vein open or to keep open is one drop every 2 seconds. So usually we would KVO anyone that didn't need a bunch of fluids. But I was running it wide for a while just because, just to be on the safe side. So at some point, someone had asked me, is it okay if I set the IV down? And, sometimes you assume. I figured people knew you have to keep the IV up above the site or you're going to end up sucking the blood out. And if you're sucking the blood out of them, it's kind of defeating the purpose of running the IV in. So I just assumed when they said you'll set it down that they would lay it on his shoulder, which is where we typically, or up on the side of the Stokes basket or something. No, that's not what he did. So I think then somebody asked me. We were all walking out, and I think someone said, can we KVO this? And I said, well, what's his BP? So somebody took his BP, and I forget what it was, but it was okay. And I said, yeah, at this point, put it on one drop every 2 seconds, which is KVO. I said, yeah, KVO it. And someone picked up the IV bag, and it was completely red. And I went, holy, you know what? Poop. I was just like, oh God. So I had to dig out another IV bag and switch that out. And, you know, it was nerve wracking enough. I mean, like I said, that was my very first trauma call. I don't know what my actual very, very first call as a paramedic, all by myself, because that's pretty much how I ran. It was like I was usually the only medic on the call. I mean, later on, I would uh, be with a fire department where I either worked with another paramedic or sometimes I had a firefighter, EMT as a partner. But um, it's nerve wracking. Your very first trauma call as a paramedic when you've never been a paramedic before and you haven't been one for long and you haven't had a trauma call as a medic, and to end up with two extremely urgent patients and then everything that was going wrong. But we got him there, and unfortunately, the 15-year-old, he didn't make it, and that was really sad. And um, I mean, it was nothing. You have skull fractures like that. There's nothing that we're going to be able to do pre-hospital. Um, we did everything that we could do in the field, but I kind of suspected he wasn't going to make it, and but the other kid, he did. I have uh, an idea he was probably full of screws and pins, and I'm not sure how they got him back together, but I did see him somewhere down the road in town, and he had sweatpants on. It looked like he had really big, like bolts almost coming out of his hips, and I thought, oh, they must have screwed him back together. But the whole time I'm working on that kid, not one word about his leg, his pelvis, that he's just screaming, my balls, you know. And finally, I said, look, they're fine. I said, look, I mean, I couldn't cut his clothes off because that heavy leather. Um, First of all, I probably could have if I'd have really tried, but I mean, I was pressed for time and I was the only one there and I had other stuff to do. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to try to even get these leathers off of him, and heavy plastic boots. I knew I wasn't going to be able to cut through them. Um, and I thought, well, if he has any like fractures of the lower leg, I thought those heavy plastic boots at least are kind of serving as a splint. So, and he was awake and screaming about his undercarriage. So finally I said, "Look, you want me to take a good hard look?" He said, "Yeah." So I stuck my head in his pants and I said, "Your little friends are there. They're fine in all their glory. They're just fine." He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, they're fine." I said, "Listen, you have a few bigger things to worry about right now, but I said you're doing good, and just hang in there with me. We'll have you in the chopper, and get a free ride to the hospital." And so that's that's kind of what you do. Not not every day. You don't get calls like that, but I mean they come in, and a lot of it's downtime. A lot of it's calls that are just someone's maybe sick and they're throwing up, or they fell down the steps and have some back pain, or whatever. I mean, it's not all constant excitement. I mean, TV shows and things they make all those shows. I mean, all those professions look like it's just nonstop excitement and everything, and it's not. I mean, you do get those calls. There's no doubt, but I always called myself queen of the cardiacs because it seemed like I just was forever going on chest pains and respiratory distress, and it's like, can I get something just to break up the monotony? Maybe, I mean, not to wish bad things on people, but diabetic call or something. Was I swear every time I got toned down, chest pains, trouble breathing, whatever. But so that was quite an interesting call, and I'll tell you what, my adrenaline was going like I couldn't even write up my trip sheet after this call. I don't know. It took me like hours to get my feet back on the planet and get my head together because I just was so wound up, and of course I felt like oh geez, you replay everything and you're thinking, oh, did I do everything right, and did I miss anything, and after the fact, I did have my boss or somebody was like, oh, I was talking to the cops that were down there on that call with you, and they said you did a really good job and everything, and I never felt like it did a really good job, but I always tried to do my best, and um, but it was that was an interesting call, and thank God you didn't get those every day, especially the running part, because that was quite the full on full tilt run we had to do, and it's a good thing I was in shape back in those days, but excuse me, but before you, before you get like, oh wow, yes, that's what you used to do for Lemmy. Just let me tell you real quickly. I don't want this to run too long, but I almost knocked myself out cold. I was running at this was the last part of my paramedic training. I had to intern with City of Allentown's paramedics, and so we were at the ER, and I was restocking the truck, and I have a habit of just doing things quickly. I used to walk fast and I talk fast. That's why I stumble over my words half the time. And I I don't know. I had a big armful of whatever, IV and bandages and stuff, and I'd been running on ambulances for like 10 years, about, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I stepped up. There's like a back step, and then there's a little space, and then you have your back doors into the back end of the patient compartment, and you have to duck. Well, I forgot to duck, and I just slammed my head into the back of the ambulance, and I was a little like, seeing stars, and thankfully I did not knock myself out cold because I thought if my what they called, not mentors, but the people I was running with, who were training me, but if they come out and find their student, me, knocked out cold in the middle of the street with supplies everywhere, like I'll never live that one down. So I didn't knock myself out, but I thought that was pretty dumb because I know you have to duck to get in there, and I don't know why. I just stepped up and boom. Another time I got my feet stuck. I was in a van ambulance and I stepped in and I forgot to put one foot in front of the other, and I got both my feet together and they got wedged between the stretcher and the bench seat, and my partner's waiting to close the door, and I'm like dancing because I'm trying to get my feet unstuck. And so I looked like I was in there doing some stupid dance. And he goes, "What are you doing?" And I don't know what I said, but I said, like, how do you say this gracefully and look professional? I said, my feet are stuck. Okay. I said, I'm just trying to get my feet, my boots are wedged and I cannot get my feet free. So I said, I'm like kind of wiggling to, like, I should have just said, I'm dancing. All right. Do you mind? I just like to dance. And I thought it was a good time to dance. So, eventually I got one foot out and I felt like a real goober. Um, Another time I went to move the truck and the stretcher has like a little hook thing, or sorry, the back of the patient compartment has a little hook. When you go to put the litter in, it catches the bar of the stretcher so that it holds it there, so your patient's not going to go rolling away, especially if like it's downhill. They oh, look at him, look at the speed! Wow, he's like doing like 90. So I went to move the truck away from right at the patient entrance of the ER because it was limited parking. And I hop in and I start to pull the truck, and all I hear is this racket. And I thought, what in the world's that? I got out and I forgot to put the stretcher in the back of the truck. So it was just hanging there and I was dragging it along as I was moving to a different parking spot. And oh, there was the time we got to, thankfully, it was just a routine transport, but we got to where we were supposed to pick the patient up. And we had done a major cleaning of the back of the ambulance. And I don't know how we did this, but we forgot to put the stretcher back in. So yeah, we got there, opened it back, and went, ooh, we don't have our stretcher. So then you have to like call your boss, Um, yeah, can you either like bring our stretcher or send another truck because ours is still sitting in the garage. So yeah, I have a lot of stupid stuff too, I could tell you. But I don't want to make myself look like too much of an idiot. But so if you've ever wondered when you see an ambulance going up the road, what they might have been doing, that's something similar to what they might be doing. Or um, like I said, it was kind of never a dull moment. Um, so I was gonna like put up some other funnier stuff. I couldn't think of anything, and I can't find my book I wrote, and with all my zillions of stories in it, I don't know where the heck I went with it, but it'll pop up like this dish towel that I haven't seen for like a year or more, maybe two, just magically appeared up in our bedroom, and I don't know. I don't know where it's been hiding out at, but it decided to come back. So maybe my notes will show up. So uh, with that, uh, that was kind of a day in the life. That's what I used to do for a living, and yes, I miss it immensely. Um, but even if I was physically capable and my hand was 100%, I don't think I could go back to it. I just couldn't at this point. But it was something I loved, and it was very rewarding. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed a little peek into the life of an EMS worker. That's what I did for a living. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day, morning, night, evening, wherever you're at. And thanks for watching. I'll see you again.